Iowa shirt. Hello, 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 and welcome in, everybody. We are the FF Mediators. I am joined by Coach Tyler. My name is Matt, and we are happy to be here. Walk through your fantasy football questions for Week 14 as we're gearing up for the playoffs. Fantasy football is at its peak. Really excited to try and work towards getting those championships and see if we can help you guys out too. So, I want to welcome in everybody that's here. So, be sure to hit the like button. Jump in those comments. Let us know what your questions are. We will be answering them for as long as we can. Hit every single question. Tyler, Coach, how we doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Ready to talk some football for sure.
Coach, you ready?
Uh, yeah, man, I'm ready. Trying to get ready for this fantasy playoff time. You know,
Mm, it's big time. I know the three of us are in several leagues together. Probably some playoff matchups coming up. So I'm excited to show those to the crowd out here next week once we get into the fantasy playoffs. But this week we're focused on making sure we get in there, get those bye weeks if we're trying to secure those 1 or 2 seeds. But it's going to be interesting. Coach, who is your favorite player that you're looking for this week to kind of make some plays for you?
oh man. Well, I will say my favorite fantasy player period is Puka Nakua. Like it just is. I was on his bandwagon early. He seems to always come through for me. He's just a dude you can count on. Other guy I'm looking at that I personally really need to show up is Bijan. He had a solid week last week. I think the Falcons desperately need a win as much as I do. Problem is they're on the road with the Vikings this week, but they need Bijan to step it up.
Yeah, I mean, Bijan's been a heck of a player in fantasy here in the last little bit. Definitely want to see him get back in gear. I mean, the Falcons themselves kind of been interesting in what they're putting together. Kirk Cousins not his best game last week. That was a rough showing. Kyle Pitts doing his mystery act back there, just disappearing. But Tyler, is there any player that you're looking forward to?
Honestly, man, this is the bye apocalypse that everybody dreads. We all knew the week 14 was coming, but it hits hard every year. There's always one week. I think probably right now, out of everybody, I think the one I'm looking forward to the most is probably Kamara. Playing against the Giants, Taysom Hill went down. Nobody else in the offense. I think he doesn't have to have a big week for them to win. The Giants are terrible, but I think he will be the target leader there, and he'll just contribute all around.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that too. A big player I'm looking for is I need Justin Jefferson to come through for me this week. Like I really do. I've got him in a bunch of leagues. He's taken on the Falcons, so I'm really hoping he can put up some big numbers and kind of float my teams that have him since he is going to be playing. And you mentioned all those teams on bye, lots of fantasy relevant players, big time quarterbacks like Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson. We're missing those guys, so I've got one league where I'm playing Mac Jones. It's a little stressful, a little scary, but I'm gonna do what I have to do to try and win. But if you guys are in here, we appreciate everyone who's tuned in. So be sure to put your questions in the comment, and we will start answering those. We've only got one in here so far. Let's just jump straight into it, and then we'll talk football if we have to. Um, Home League FF Advice on X says, "Are we buying Kyler? Will he show up when we need him most this week and beyond?" It's a big question. I mean, this is an interesting group to ask about Kyler because we're kind of split. I mean, Coach has been very critical over Kyler. For the last several years, Tyler is a Kyler believer. Myself, I've got several Kyler shares, but I'm hopeful that he can get it together. This week he's taking on the Seahawks. Coach, how are we feeling about that?
Well, a lot of times for me, and I will openly admit sometimes that when I'm critical of a guy, sometimes it's more about whether I would want him to be my quarterback in real life every now and then. You know what I mean? Before more so than fantasy. Like Kyler is though fantastic in fantasy. I know he's a top 10 fantasy quarterback on the season. Um, me being critical of him is I wouldn't love him to necessarily be my quarterback. You know, if I was an NFL owner necessarily, but at the same time, Kyler produces for fantasy purposes, and I mean, I like his matchup. I was trying to look down, see like what's he got looming the next few weeks. The Patriots,
Carolina.
Yeah, you gotta like that.
Championship weekend.
He's got a favorable schedule coming up, so you gotta like that. The Rams. I mean, there's a lot there to like if you're buying Kyler right now. I would.
Yeah, Tyler, what about you? How do you feel about Kyler?
Yeah, I kind of agree. The schedule itself is favorable. But that being said, I do like Kyler overall. He gives you that rushing floor that we always love in fantasy. If he gets near the goal line, he could take one in from 10 yards out easy. That's an easy 6 points at that point. So I would buy him. I've tried buying him. Doesn't always work, but it. If you can get him, I would go for it.
Welcome in, Hauff. How are we doing, my friend?
Good. Figured I'd just pop in for a couple minutes, see how you boys were doing.
Hey, we're doing great. You are always welcome in here. We're talking a little Kyler Murray right now. Any stance on him?
Yeah, Kyler's as good as he's been early on. I don't love the production that I've seen lately, and I'm not a big fan of his heading into this week in particular. And I'm not sure what you guys are talking about. I missed that, but yeah, Kyler's a bit of an enigma. That boy. I don't. Yeah, so I don't love him here this week. I don't really love him the rest of the way. Why? Like, what were your thoughts here? What were we going on?
Just kind of talking, looking forward to the fantasy playoffs. I mean, kind of what you said. He's been a little bit of a disappointment so far. He's got the athleticism to really make any type of play. You know, Tyler mentioned you give him the ball and he can take it to the house at any point in time. He's that fast. But I am a little concerned about his connection with Marvin Harrison and how that will grow in the future. I mean, I'm sure it can only get better, but so far this season, it's been a disappointing act, in my opinion.
I mean, in terms of that connection, for sure, absolutely. That last matchup between the Cardinals and the Seahawks, we didn't really see a ton in terms of fantasy production. I don't like that on either side of the ball, to be honest with you. But yeah, you have to hope that they can correct that, right? Going into year two, the two of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hope. Before you joined, Coach was talking about it. He's been critical of Kyler over the last few years. And
Sure.
He was also a little critical of Marvin Harrison. So it's kind of an interesting situation for him.
Why critical of Marvin Harrison, though?
Well, what I say to Marvin Harrison is it's really just whether his production will ever match the hype. It just is what it is. I think Marvin Harrison is going to be a solid NFL receiver. He's just not going to be what everybody hoped he was going to be when they took him top 2 or 3 in dynasty drafts necessarily.
There's not really, and you guys are all dynasty guys, right? You guys are all.
Yeah, we do a lot of dynasty.
So here's my question to you boys, and then I will shut up, and then you guys can go on with this. But is there a way to kind of combat that, like that hype? Do you just simply stay away from it? Is there a process involved where you can kind of evaluate that better than, again, we're going to get into April here, March and April. Everyone's going to get hot and bothered about all these new rookies. This guy ran that 40 time. He must be the greatest. How do you guys kind of evaluate that and not go overboard?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I try not to put too much stock into the combine. The three of us, we talk all the time about sometimes these players, they get drafted way too high just because they make a really cool throw at their pro day, really cool throw at the combine. And, that stuff's real. It happens all the time. So for me, yeah, exactly. I'm trying to watch the tape, see how they perform, especially in how they perform against good defenses or good teams. Sometimes the process hits. Draft capital speaks volumes. So you got to see, where are these teams taking them? Are they investing a lot in them? What's the situation? I mean, I'll let Coach speak to this for a second because he's always talking about if you're looking for that next, dart throw wide receiver in the third round, look for a guy who's going to have early opportunity and just see if you can take advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, the landing spot means more than anything else. Like, is the guy
man.
going to walk in and be number one, which Marvin Harrison was. So that's why one of the reasons everybody was on him. But at the same time, you look at a guy like Roma Dunze that people were on. He may end up being the guy, but right now they're going out of their way to get DJ Moore the ball every chance they can get to keep him happy, because all he does is complain. So it's going to take a little bit. It's going to take a little bit before Rome works in there. So that landing spot, and is the guy going to be wide receiver one? Like, that matters. So you see that with Ladd McConkey, who people took later on, but right now he's looking like the real deal because he's the best wide receiver in the room. You know what I mean? He just was when he got drafted.
Sounds about right.
What about you, Tyler?
So for me, I mean, yeah, landing spot definitely plays a part. Obviously, if you have the opportunity right away, you have a better chance of making it work. I think one of the things that we can keep in mind though is look at JSN. JSN was supposed to be one of the top wide receivers in his class when he came out. His first year was lackluster. He's with Geno Smith. And what have we seen recently? He has, since DK's been out, Tyler Lockett's took a back seat and he's taken over. It's the second year takeoff that we always hope for. So I think the one thing you have to look for is pedigree. Like when you watch them on a college football field, do they take over a game? Marvin Harrison checks that box easily, just like JSN did, just like others have done. Has he flashed a lot early? No, he hasn't. But the talent is there. The opportunity is there. I continue to believe in that talent until there's just a blatant reason that you give me not to, basically. I mean,
Well,
that's all it is.
that's the tricky part of dynasty, right? Like, when to hold or when to move on from a guy. That's the key. Like, is it time to let's move off this guy? It's year two. It's not getting it done now. We got to bail. But I mean, that's what makes dynasty difficult. Or do I
Yeah,
hold
staying
one more
fluid.
season? Yeah.
Good old Kenny Rogers style. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run.
I mean, that's
Amen.
a lot of truth in that. But
Mhm.
let's jump to our next question here, guys. Jared over on Facebook says, "Hey guys, lost Taysom Hill and Goddard. He needs a tight end rest of the season. PPR Fryermuth or Noah Gray. I have Mahomes as my QB1. I'm gonna
Go
let
ahead,
Tyler
Matt.
go
Go ahead,
first.
Matt. No, let
I'm gonna
Matt
let
go.
Tyler go. Okay, I'll start. He's saying this because we had a big conversation in our group chat talking about Noah Gray, and I said start Kyle Pitts, and boy was I wrong over Noah Gray. And Noah Gray's involvement can't be denied. Coach and I have discussed a lot about the Chiefs running two tight end sets has kind of changed. I mean, we're not really seeing the wide receivers be as active. I mean, part of that's because they're not the playmakers that you necessarily hope. But this is just a different Chiefs team. It's totally different. But enough about me and my loss. I still won the pizza bet. So go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah. So I definitely had a start sit question this past week in a league where I had picked up Noah Gray off waivers, and I had Kyle Pitts, and I just didn't love the matchup. I second guessed myself, and I was like, I'm just going to ask the guys what they think. Uh, and as Matt alluded to, he said, "Oh yeah, start Kyle Pitts," and I was like, "Okay, he's giving me the confidence. I'm going to run with it. Hopefully, it's a close game. With the Chargers, they're going to score a lot of points." And then he goosed me.
Yeah.
Luckily, I won. That I did have Noah
You're
Gray on the
welcome.
bench, but going forward, yeah, Noah Gray, he's necessary. I feel like to Mahomes for some reason. Every time they get in the red zone, it's him, Kelsey, or D Hop. It's one of those. If they're not running the ball in, that's his targets, and it's a toss up. I mean, Mahomes spreads the ball around everywhere. I'll take a shot at getting a touchdown every week because we know the offense is going to score. So for me, as far as between Noah Gray and Fryermuth, I mean Russ is slinging it, but give me Noah Gray and the involvement the last few weeks.
Before we let
Well,
Coach talk, I'm not going to let him go first. Hoff, you go first. You're our guest here. Yeah, we're going to make
No,
him
I
wait.
I was gonna ask a question. I'll even pitch it to Coach. I mean, I'm
Sure.
watching you guys talk. I'm gonna get up and get a beverage in a second. But the one thing that I wonder, and I'll pitch this to you, Coach, is we saw last year we didn't see as much Noah Gray, but we saw Travis Kelsey not produce as much as we're normally accustomed to. Then when it got to the playoffs, which might not have been relevant for fantasy at that point, we saw all of a sudden Travis Kelsey, the old Superman thing, Clark Kent, rip it open and he's ready to go. Is there a fear when you're talking about rest of season with Noah Gray that Travis Kelsey could do that again? I mean, that seems like a realistic thing, no?
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. The weird something's happened in Kansas City when it comes to all of a sudden there's two tight end sets like 65% of the time or something crazy here the last 3 weeks. I think more of
65%
it,
of the time it works every time, right?
yeah, no doubt. It's like
Mm.
I don't know if they don't have as much faith in Worthy or what's up with that. Like I don't necessarily know, but I do think Noah Gray seems to have a higher floor than Fryermuth. Crazy that I even said that. Now, the issue with Matt in our group text was that Matt acted like that was a stupid question that Tyler
I
asked. Like
did
it's
not.
Kyle Pitts no matter what. Like how could he ask this question like Kyle Pitts isn't bad? Like
I tell you
I
what. Go ahead, Coach. Go ahead.
anyway. So yeah. I mean I like Noah Gray. I like his involvement lately. Um we actually said, I think I actually wrote back in that message. I said I can't tell yet whether this is just the route the Chiefs are going to go, or if it's just random happenstance that we're using Noah Gray and he's getting open. But now it looks like this is where we're headed in the Chiefs offense, which is I would say part of the reason why they've not been scoring as many points. They're just not as wide open. But at the same time, like Noah Gray looks to have a really high floor at the moment. He's going to get 4 catches and 50 yards. So if that's what you need, then that's the guy you play.
Hey,
Fair
that
enough.
matters.
Yeah.
In the tight end world, that's I mean, right now I'm playing that.
Mm-hmm.
You're not wrong. I mean, we've been goosed so many times with
Mm.
big names, start spots. It's been all over the place this year in the tight end market. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that changes going forward. I mean, you mentioned the fall off of Travis Kelsey. I mean, is that happening? I don't know. I mean, it's gonna happen at some point. I mean, he's what 34, 35. So,
Yeah, he's up there. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
So
yeah. Yeah.
I think for me in this situation, I might go Pat Freiermuth between the two. But I really think it's a toss up at this point. I don't think it's too different either way.
I'd probably go Noah Gray over Fryermuth, but like I was kind of saying earlier, there's a little bit of in terms of when Kelsey's all of a sudden just gonna show up. There's a
Mhm.
little bit of Russian roulette involved with going with Noah Gray. But from what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, yeah, I'd probably go Noah
Yeah.
Gray.
Yeah, can't blame me. Paul on YouTube asks, "Hey guys, should I start Garindo, White, or Reed in my flex this week? If you include Pollard in that group, who should I start in the playoffs?" Coach, I'll let you answer this one first. Where you at in this start sit question?
Garindo's interesting. I gotta see it once before I feel super great about it. Uh, I'm Jaden Reed all day long. The guy just gets in the end zone.
Yeah, I love Jaden Reed, man, especially this matchup this week. Like, I'm really excited for this game. It just feels like that classic battle getting ready for the playoffs. But Tyler, what about you? Do you have any preference in this group here for who to start?
I think we agree here. As far as Reed goes, he's just the more explosive player. I also think the Lions' defense, they continue to lose people, so eventually there's going
Mhm.
to come a point where that defense is not as efficient as it has been. I think that leads to more targets down the field, maybe him getting open. I will say, if you throw Pollard into the group, he would be my second start of the week. Like Coach said, I'd rather see Garindo do it first. I know it's the system. We always like those running backs. Great, that's fine. Rashad White, I don't believe in, really that much. We all love Bucky here. We're a Bucky Stan group. And so give me Pollard against the Jags. Until they prove me wrong, I would target them too. So
Yeah, I mean, Jags are good to target, but it's a good thing we've got the resident 49er in here, so take it away, Hoff.
Well, no, I would still go Reed. If if Garendo had a healthy offensive line, if Aaron Banks missed because of a concussion, they've been dinged up here and there. Trent Williams, obviously, with a horrific loss of his wife lost a baby and everything else. So just that's a tailspin thing. If all things were equal there, if that offensive line was healthy in a Kyle Shanahan offense, yes, Garendo would be a great play. But given everything that's going on, I would go Jaden Reed here. But yeah, and I also like Pollard, even though Pollard can be a little bit hit or miss sometimes. I think he's a hit this week in particular. So yeah, that's where I'd roll too.
Yeah, I think I'm with you guys on Pollard too, especially taking on the Jags. That's a matchup I want to exploit if I
Yeah.
can.
Jaguars are, yeah.
Yeah. But we do have a super chat, so I'm going to jump over to that, guys. We appreciate you, JB6997. He says, please help Chase Brown, Amari, Jacoby for AJ and Mixon. Where do we fall on this, gentlemen? I'll let you start us off, Tyler.
my question is what does your playoff? Okay, so he said right there, don't need the win this week, and I have Brees and Kyron. Yeah, I would take it. I would take the two better players. Mixon's been better on the season. Chase Brown, yeah, he gives you production, but I'd rather have AJ Brown over Amari and Jacoby both. I would go for AJ and Mixon.
Yep. Coach?
Yeah, it's pretty easy for me. AJ and Mixon. Like Mixon's been a stud. Give me those two right now.
Off.
Yeah, I'd go the same way. It's incredible. Mixon last year, we were like, well, maybe he's done. Then we saw him with Houston. Maybe he's not. So yeah, that's a easy one for me too, for sure.
Yeah. Mixon has been awesome, man. I mean, I keep saying it every single week. I don't think anybody has missed more than Mixon on the Bengals. Like they missed that running game. Like they are
Yep.
dying for it. And he's really impressed me this year with the Texans. Like he's putting up a bunch of points, looking really good, and kind of helped float that team who's not quite had the passing attack that they had the year before.
Even if they had Mixon, would they still use them the way that they, would they still use them the way that they should? It's a fair point to argue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
Part of the reason why he looked like he was dead there.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree with that at all. I mean,
don't know what you got till it's gone.
Boy, that's a good way to put it. I mean, we're sitting here giving song references like crazy, Hoff. I mean, just doing what you can for us.
I'm trying.
But we appreciate the super chat, JB. So I think all four of us are in agreement. Absolutely do that deal if you can. But we will continue to carry on, gentlemen, and we'll hit our next one here from South. Says, would you start Najee or Garendo? Also need to drop one, Brooks or Coleman. Hoff, I'll let you kick this off first.
See, I'm not a Najee believer. I'm gonna go Garendo, and I'm gonna go Garendo on the idea, at least in terms of this week alone. The Bears are good against quarterbacks. I think that doesn't do well for Brock Purdy. I think they try and get Garendo involved early and often. So I would go Garendo over Najee, me personally. So
yeah, I think I'm with you. I lean Garendo in this situation too. The game of trying to pick between Najee and Jaylen Warren and what this team is going to do, I mean, it's a little bit frustrating for me. And I'm with you. I think the 49ers are going to lean on Garendo. They're going to try and find a way to settle the game down and go back to what they're good at. And I think Shanahan is the king at let's just put our hand in the dirt and run the ball. But enough of that. Coach, what do you think?
Up until the second half, yes, correct.
That's true. That is true.
Like I think it's really close. The Bears have struggled against the run. I mean, the Lions for the whole first half ran the ball down their throat last week. But now I'm actually going to go the other way. I'm going to take Najee, mostly because his usage last week was through the roof. The split was not there all of a sudden. Like, okay, we're going to lean on Najee now down the stretch. Did he get hot and they ran with it? He had 16 carries. Warren had 3. If that keeps up, then I'm going Najee. I just think he has a healthier offensive line. I'm going Najee.
Tyler, I saw you clapping, so I assume you're heading that way too.
Yep. I'm for sure going with Najee. He's the starter there. He can catch the ball if need be. I don't think, like Coach said, I don't think the split is nearly what it has been in the past. For whatever reason, whether it's been Jalen Warren being hurt, I think Najee's the safer play. And as far as leading into the next question he asked about Brooks or Coleman, I would drop Keon Coleman. So
Oh yeah, good point. I mean, I think I'm with you there. I'd also drop Coleman in this situation, but any
Same.
difference there from you guys,
Nope.
Coach?
No, and, Brooks played one full series last week, and man, he looked really good. I don't know, and I'm curious to, I'm wondering, is the Chuba fumble, are they going to start working Brooks in a little bit more? I don't know.
Just give him a reason. Just give him a reason.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean that whole backfield in Carolina is going to be interesting next year to see what they do. Re-signing Chuba, drafting Brooks. I'm not sure to make heads or tails of it really right now.
If I could quickly ask you guys selfishly, because I'm in a room with a bunch of guys who are into Dynasty. So we saw two teams where a running back was drafted high ish, whatever. That being, we had the Cardinals, we had the Panthers. Both of the elder running backs on those teams got contracts. How do you kind of evaluate not getting too hot and bothered about the shiny new toy, the best running back, going to a team? Because again, like Coach kind of said earlier, it's all about landing spot, and I wholeheartedly agree with that forever and always. But how do you kind of pump the brakes? Is there a way to do that, or is there too much momentum, too much excitement?
Coach, I'll let you
Like
go
with
first.
these running backs,
Well, people initially thought the landing spots weren't too bad because the running backs, well, Chuba had underproduced, hadn't really done anything at Carolina.
Yeah.
But then Connor was old, But we've seen, I do think running back, we were talking about this the other day, running backs by committee has, in a sense, elongated some of these guys' careers. Now, Connor, for one, has been hurt periodically throughout his career. So
Sure.
I think, in a way, that's sort of saved his legs, in a sense. So it's really hard. We talk about all the time, like you try to evaluate dynasty in 2 to 3 year windows. Like, is James Conner going to be can he play for me next year and the year after? Like 5 years from now, he's not going to be playing for me. So can he play for me a year next year, the year after? That's what we try to look at. I have to say, I would have thought at the beginning of the year that Trey Benson would have had a little bit more of an impact. But Connor's probably had his best year as a pro and looks healthier than ever and moving better than ever. So that's definitely tough. That's tricky. There's no doubt.
What about you, Tyler?
I think it is hard to temper those expectations, especially you want the shiny new toy, like you said. I think the biggest thing, like Coach said, with the running back by committees, something to add on to that is look for backfields where their talent is different. Um, to me, like I know we kind of agree in terms of the Bucks backfield. We saw Bucky as the better running back, but he has a little bit of a different game style than Rashad White does. It's the same thing to me with Trey Benson and James Conner. James Conner's more of the pass catcher. Trey Benson's more of the runner. And it's kind of the same deal with Chuba and Brooks. I think Brooks is more of a pass catcher. Now, can he run? Obviously, but he came into the year hurt. So I think they knew what they had and what role they were trying to fill instead of trying to just shove it all into one running back. I think that's a new way to kind of approach it. If you have two running backs that are the same style of back, maybe the competition heats up a little more and kind of butt heads with each other. But the running back by committee allows for more than one running back to be relevant as long as they have different play styles in my head.
Yeah, I think for me, like, I do look to see what the team looks like. I mean, I told these guys, I talk about it all the time. Bucky Irving, I watched him play, and I just knew he was freaking good. Like, I didn't care where he went. I wanted to draft him. Rashad White, incredibly inefficient. Like, we've talked about that a bunch. So, that was a good situation. Trey Benson, on the other hand, we kind of wrote off James Conner a little bit. I think a lot of dynasty managers kind of thought, oh, well, here comes the replacement. We just got to start moving on. And this has been the year of proving that wrong. I mean, Derrick Henry's going off, Saquon's going off, James Conner's going off. Like, these older running backs, they didn't go off. Mixon, the list goes on of these guys just continuing to produce. But I think the running back by committee is what we're going to start seeing. And I don't think it's necessarily a new idea either. I mean, early 2000s, we had Fred Taylor and Maurice Jones-Drew. Yeah. We had Stewart and who's the other guy in Carolina, coach? I'm blanking on his name. D'Angelo Williams.
D'Angelo Williams.
Yeah. We had Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. Like, this has happened in NFL history. And I think there's something to be said for that. Like Coach said, you have fresh legs. You could have a different type of back, like Tyler said. Like, that's part of the game. You're going to have health and depth for these teams, especially if you're trying to make a playoff run. Go ahead, Coach.
The one situation I never understood really was Blake Corum. People jumped all over Blake Corum early in the second round. Some of that's coming off the Michigan Natty. I get that. But, I mean, did they watch Kyron Williams last year? I mean, I know he had an injury. Like, I guess they thought that was going to be an issue forever. But, man, he's been awesome. And Blake Corum's been useless at this point. So
that's actually a prime example of why I asked the question, actually, Coach. Because people just they see this guy's drafted to this team and they completely forget about the other guy. Like, completely. But I get it. It's also with good reason. There's college tape. There's a lot of production. It's very exciting. I get it. I feel like it's always it's hard to kind of measure it correctly, kind of get the right bearings there. But whatever. I always want to ask the dynasty guys that. So,
well, it's like Matt's a big GT guy. Well, everybody is, right? He's good, like everybody is. Sure. But at the same time, that's all going to come back to where he goes and who's the running back there. Like, who knows? There's no telling. But I'm just.
I think Tyler had something. He was pointing. Were you pointing?
Yeah. I think it kind of depends too, because we can see it shift the other way, where rookie running backs, when they come in, they also may go to a team and we're like, oh, that's a terrible landing spot. They're done. Like, they're dead. That's what everybody did with Braylon Allen. People forgot that at Wisconsin, he was a monster, except for his senior year or his last year in college. He was a monster at Wisconsin. So, to me, I thought he was a great prospect in general. When he went to the Jets, was I disappointed? Yes, obviously. But like I said, they're two different backs. Brees is more of the pass catcher. He can still run, but Braylon Allen is that physical back. And we saw that earlier in the year. The Jets used him that way. So I think that's something to keep an eye on too, is just because the landing spot may not be the greatest, look at the differing styles, and you might get a heads up on somebody who doesn't pay attention to that. And they're like, oh, well, I don't want to draft him because it's a bad spot.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned it's a tricky game. I mean, a lot of people drafted Blake Corum ahead of Allen, like you're mentioning. And Blake Corum is coming off the best game he's had all year, 4.2 points. How helpful is that for your team? It's not. It's not at all. So it's a tricky balance. Like you said, you got to see who's there, what's the team doing, what's the history of the coach. Is he running two running backs? Is he splitting carries? What are they trying to do? What was the production in college? There's a lot to take in, and part of it is a guessing game. At the end of the day, we're just doing risk management. That's all we're doing. We're trying to find the best player and use that value to help our team, whether that's moving them later, keeping them, starting them, trading them, whatever it's going to be. You're just trying to always accrue value on your team. But I think we've pretty much covered a lot of running back questions here. We'll point out, Joey says 100% agree with Tyler. Well said. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of takes on this, but Pete has jumped in the comments, guys, and he's asked a question. So, do we help him win? I don't know if he's playing Hauff in maybe this situation, but he says Geno Smith and Tank Dell for a late first and Anthony Richardson. Oh,
I've been on this show long enough where I'm just going to tell Pete to go fuck himself, but you guys can answer.
I almost want to leave it there, but we won't leave that. We'll be nice to people. We'll help him out. I know. So
I love people. You guys go ahead.
Yeah, Geno Smith and Tank Dell for a late first and Anthony Richardson. I'm going to let Coach go first because he's actually trying to move Tank Dell, put him on the block this morning or yesterday. I forget which day it was, but what are your thoughts here, Coach?
Yeah, I got an offer from somebody in this very room in about 30 seconds for Tank Dell. So now, if you change that second you offer me to a first, we will talk. But I think of course, it's going to depend on the rest of your quarterback room. Gino's that guy that's right. He's no spring chicken. The dude's old. AR has played a little better. He's running more. I still don't feel great about his long-term outlook. But I don't feel great about Tank Dell's long-term outlook right now either, just to be honest. I know Matt's still a big believer. I'm in the I just don't know anymore camp. I think I'm going late first in AR.
Tyler, I think I know your answer here, but go ahead.
Especially if I'm rebuilding. If it's dynasty,
That's a good point.
rebuilding.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I'm taking the same. The first in AR. At this point, I believe in AR. I have to. He's a Colts fan. He's definitely looked better since the benching and coming back. So give me the young, athletic quarterback that he only can really go up at this point. And that late first, I mean, with all the running backs coming out, you're going to have Tyler Warren from Penn State, who's definitely going to go in the first round of your rookie drafts. You'll have the quarterbacks, of course. That's going to push wide receiver value down the board too. So you could get maybe a Luther Burden or somebody like that down towards that late first too. That may end up being better than Tank Dell in the long run anyway. So give me the young guy in the first.
Yeah, I think I might surprise everyone here. I've been very critical of Anthony Richardson a lot, but I'm going to go with the first and Richardson here. I think, like you said, Tyler, that first, it's only going to accrue value, especially if I'm tanking or rebuilding or whatever I'm doing. That's going to give me flexibility, and I can figure out what I want to do later. Richardson, while I'm not necessarily the biggest fan, I can recognize fantasy value, and I think that there's definitely room for growth for him to continue to get better because he has played better. And on top of that, I think his value right now is substantially ahead of Geno. And so if I can take that right now, that's fine. I could flip Richardson immediately because someone's going to buy. Every single league's going to have one person who's going to chase that upside. And so I would easily take this deal. But Hauff, I don't know how much you're into Dynasty. You have a lot of leagues, but I'd love to hear what you have to say.
I'm in a couple dynasty leagues, but I am more of a Cavalier dynasty player. But I will say that, man, I'm kind of in your court in terms of I have been very critical of Anthony Richardson. But Tyler said a lot of good things there. We've seen some good stuff from AR since the benching. I would rather take that first round pick too, and I would rather at this point, when you're talking about Geno Smith and Tank Dell, I will take that gamble on AR being a weekly producer, overcoming a lot of these obstacles that we've seen over the first, year and a half. So yeah, I would go that way as well.
Yeah. I
think like this is also a trade. This is also a trade that's a win in Dynasty, right? Because if you have Tank Dell on your team, you probably I guess you could have traded for him, but if you drafted him in the third round and you flipped him for a first, essentially.
Good point.
That's how I look at that. Like even Matt offered me a second for Tank Dell, which I'm considering I might actually do. That's still I still came up, you know what I mean, from where I drafted him. So there is that.
Yeah, spot on. Let's jump to Jared's question here. He says, do you think Breece Hall gets shut down by Brandon Allen on waivers this week? I've seen a lot of people talking about, do you cut Breece Hall? I saw that on X several times today, and that's a question I would have never thought we'd have at the beginning of the season. Personally, no, I'm not cutting Breece Hall at all.
No.
I have him in my biggest redraft league, and I'm in an absolute must-win this week, and I'm probably playing Breece Hall. So, Tyler, what about you? Are you concerned at all?
I mean, you got to be concerned when there's an injury, and I was trying to look it up. He didn't practice, but they say that they're optimistic for him to play Sunday. That being said, the question about Braylon Allen. Um, at this point in the year, if you have a running back that's already hurt or prone to getting hurt, or just in general, if you have a bench spot and you can drop somebody, you need to get that insurance running back. That's going to save you the headache in the long run. Your trades, like your trade deadline, may be this week, or maybe it's already passed. This may be your only opportunity to get that insurance running back. I think you have to pick him up, and then that way you don't have to worry about it. If Brees Hall misses and gets shut down, there's Braylon Allen. If not, you play Brees Hall and just hope he doesn't get hurt because he's that good. So,
Yeah. Coach, what about you? What's your stance on Hall?
Yeah, I'm the same. I do think there's probably a decent chance he doesn't play this week. But I don't know about shut down. I mean, in NFL world, man, it's all about stats. And if he wants to get out there and play and he wants those stats for a future contract, he's going to get out there and play if he can. So, that's what I think anyway. So, I would pick up Braylon Allen if I could, just in case. I mean, if I could, if it doesn't kill me ultimately.
Yeah. Hauff, anything to add there?
Yeah, kind of on Coach's point, like I wouldn't mind picking up Braylon Allen, but I think talking about shutting down Brees Hall, it seems like a bit of an extreme. I get that someone can make the argument, but I don't know that he gets shut down per se. We'll see what happens this week, but yeah, I mean, shutdown seems like a bit of an extreme, but
yeah. Well, I don't think that's going to happen either, personally. But
yeah.
You never know. We'll see. Tristan, good friend of the show, says start sit Metcalf Mooney half PPR for his flex. I imagine this is probably in the league with. Oh no, it's not. I have Metcalf. I was thinking he's in the league with all three of us, not Hauff, but we're kind of all in the playoff spots fighting for that spot. But Hauff, do you have a preference between Metcalf and Mooney here?
The Falcons are going up against the Vikings, and then who's Metcalf going up against the Seahawks? Who are they going up? Oh, the Cardinals, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah, I would lean. I would actually lean Mooney, to be honest. I think we get a little I think Kirk Cousins is proving to be quite the enigma in terms of fantasy football. But I think this could be a good game for Mooney. I said this earlier. I don't like this matchup for either side between the Cardinals and the Seahawks. I think this is going to be a very bland matchup in terms of fantasy points scored. We kind of saw it a couple weeks ago. So I would take Darnell Mooney in this spot, me personally.
Tyler, any things to help here for our good friend Tristan?
I think the issue is DK. It also says he's questionable for the week. I don't know what that injury is. He was limited with a shoulder. Yeah, he was limited with a shoulder. Honestly, he's the wide receiver one on that team. I don't trust Kirk right now as far as I could throw him. So give me DK. Just even in a close game, if it's low scoring because of the division, I'll take that chance he gets.
No judgment here on not trusting Kirk. No judgment.
Yeah, he's been really rough. Those interceptions were bad, man. But Coach, what about you? Do you have a preference here on Metcalf and Mooney?
Yeah, I don't love either matchup, honestly. Mooney's had 2 subpar games in a row, especially after we'd had a few weeks of major Mooney hype, and then he has a couple subpar games in a row. So I think he's sort of due for a little bit more of a breakout game here to get back going. So I'm just going to go Mooney. I think it's really close. I mean, I think it's almost a coin flip, but I would roll Mooney out there if it was me.
In your three's opinion, and I'm sorry, Matt, you were getting ready to talk, and I just stepped on you. But no, I was actually just curious about what you guys thought again. I'm in the room, a bunch of dynasty guys. Penix getting drafted to the Falcons. Cousins occasionally. I mean, he had that one huge boom week on Thursday Night Football, a couple good weeks here and there, but outside of that, it's been a lot of Russian roulette. I mean, do the Falcons go with Penix next year, or do they ride with Cousins a little more? Or I will just say, even though Pete disagrees on this, me and Pete will talk about this at some other point, but I actually think, given what we've seen from Cousins, drafting Penix was probably a good investment, in my opinion.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
I mean,
Pete's probably wrong because Pete's always wrong. But
Yeah,
I'm
fuck that
just
guy.
kidding.
Fuck that
But
guy. I'll text him right now and say, fuck you.
I do think drafting Penix was right. If you just look around the league and the sit and wait thing works, I think in the long haul they're going to be right. But if you're a Falcon fan, man, you've got to be ripping your hair out. This division is terrible. Once again, they are far and away the best team in this division, and they are still finding a way to screw it up. All going to come back to how Cousins plays down the stretch, and do the Falcons win the division and maybe win a playoff game. If they don't, and they don't win the division, they don't make the playoffs, then they're going to peace out from Kirk Cousins. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance that division comes down to Week 18, where the Falcons play the Panthers, and if they lose that game to the Panthers, I think that's a lot of weight towards the Michael Penix start.
Panthers
Coach
playing with some
mentions
heart too.
Yeah, they are. They absolutely are. And Bryce Young has benefited tremendously from the sit and wait that Coach just mentioned, and I think there's a lot of value in that. I think Kirk is a solid NFL quarterback. I mean, he's had a pretty good career. I mean, a lot of people make fun of his prime time, his record, and all that. But as it stands, he's still a solid quarterback. He's had a long career, and I think there's value in learning from a guy like that, whether it's making the bad decision or the right decision. And for me, I do think that it's going to come down to how this season ends, because, like Coach said, this division is terrible. It is absolutely terrible, and the fact that pretty much all 4 teams are in it. Like, anyone could win it. I mean, obviously the Panthers are way further off, but I mean, they're playing good football, like you said, a lot of heart, and there's something to be said for that. Tyler, what about you?
And this week they have the Vikings. The Falcons have the Vikings.
Yep.
The Bucks have the Raiders. I mean, come Monday they could be looking around going, the Bucks are winning this division. We're in trouble.
Yeah. And I mean, the Bucks are another team of trying to figure out what they're going to do or what's going to happen with them. But I mean, it's going to be interesting because the Falcons have pieces. They have pieces almost at every single level on both sides of the ball. And so you got to find a way to capitalize off that. And so far they haven't. I mean, they're 6-6 and they're pretty much a disappointment. I mean, they went out there and they spent money. They went and picked up guys on that defensive side of the ball to try and make a move and try and push themselves over the hump. And it just hasn't worked, despite them at times playing good ball. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
Kirk is QB 20.
Oof. Yeah,
he started off hot, but he's cooled down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think here's the issue. Everybody, like we said earlier, the shiny new toy. That's what everybody wants. The grass is not always greener on the other side from the start. I'm going to say that. I believe in Michael Penix. I've drafted him in a few leagues. So it's not that I don't believe in the talent or anything like that. But we've already agreed and we've already said that sitting and waiting approach, it just helps quarterbacks develop. They get to see the game from a different level from the get-go, especially behind a veteran. So I think you let Kirk play it out this year. Like Matt said, how they finish the year will be a key factor going into training camp next year. If they struggle down the road, I think it'll be a little bit more of a battle next year than we may think.
And I actually want to ask you a question, Hauff, here, just because I know the three of us talk about it a lot.
That's fine, something? But then I had a question for Coach after this question.
That's fine. We'll hit it. I saw something earlier, and how much of the success of Washington last year is attributed to Michael Penix over. We've seen Polk struggle this year. McMillan hasn't really done anything. Coach talked about Rome Odunze earlier. There's a lot of hype around him, and they're force feeding the ball to DJ Moore and keeping Keenan Allen involved, and so he's kind of taken the back seat to all of that. Is there something to be said for Penix floating all of that? Maybe. I don't know. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I guess there could be a little bit to that. I'm not sure how much. No, I really don't think a ton. Me personally, I don't think that really floats a lot into it. But my whole big question was, especially it's really for Coach, because I feel like Coach, you and I are, not to age discriminate. We're probably the older guys in the room, right? You and
Yeah,
I.
he's
Oh,
old as crap.
no doubt.
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be 41 this month.
Coach
I
is
don't know how
drawing
Coach.
Social Security.
I got you.
Well,
I got you.
well, you probably got me, but you look fantastic. But I'm wondering, we're talking about, Penix, and we're talking about,
Mhm.
Matt mentioned, benching Bryce Young, and I forget if it was Matt or if it was Tyler, but we talked about benching Bryce Young, and did that benefit him? Do you think that we can get to a point? Because a lot of people these days that play fantasy don't know that this world existed. Quarterbacks used to be drafted and they would sit, right? Now
Mhm.
that seems like blasphemy. Do
Mhm.
you think that we could, maybe by process of these sorts of situations, can we revert to a world in which quarterbacks are drafted and not started right away? Unless they're obviously, number one overall, yada yada. Like, Aaron Rodgers. You know,
Yeah, I mean, we know that
that work.
works. Like it's a more
Yeah.
surefire way to a more successful career, right? Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, they started early and fell on their face and ended up on 3 teams later, and now they're fantastic.
Yeah.
But I still think some of it comes back to people are just in love with the idea of winning immediately. And Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels and even Caleb Williams right now, who's playing really well. Like, I mean, that's going to kill it. Like people want those guys. Those guys are still better than most of the NFL at this point. We talk about a lot whether it's a I always say this too. I don't know that it's a quarterback development problem. I think it's a quarterback evaluation problem. Like I just don't think we evaluate quarterbacks very well as a
I like
whole.
it.
One of the reasons I was a big Bo Nix guy was because Sean Payton really liked Bo Nix, and I think Sean Payton knows what he's talking about. To me, like when I found out that he really wanted him, he targeted him. That was the guy he was going after for me. I went, "Oh man, this dude can coach. He knows what he's looking at. He's seen a lot of ball. He's a dude that if he says it, I believe it until he proves me wrong. And so far, he's been right. So I don't know. Like I think it's a good approach. I think it's a safer approach to be successful. But the other thing that I think is in play is that quarterback rookie contract means a whole lot now too.
Yeah.
If you
Good point.
if you can win those first couple of years with that, when you're paying them nothing, that means so much. Like the Cowboys have been just crippled by Dak's contract, and it's really, in my opinion, crippled what's around him, even up front. They haven't been able to pay the guys up front to be able to run the ball like they could 5 years ago. So I mean, there's a lot of factors at play there.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Cowboys, and a lot of those misses up front have hurt them. They're missing all sorts of players that they've had for the last 10 years start on that offensive line, and now they look lost. I mean,
Remember
Tyler
when Zeke got
Guyton,
there way back when, and that offensive line looked like, the Great Wall of China? Like, it was just amazing. It was
yeah,
just, yeah.
it felt like they could do anything. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever they wanted to do, it felt like they could do it. And right now, it feels like they can't do anything. So we'll see what happens with that. But there's a lot to look at, a lot to see, especially with what Coach said. Is it a development or is it an evaluation problem? And I think there is something to be said for evaluation. I mean, we mentioned earlier, sometimes these guys get drafted off that pro day throw, and that can look really cool. It can look the part, but there's a difference between throwing on air and throwing against the Bears or throwing against whatever team you want to name that's out there trying to come at you and sack you and defending on the back end. So we'll just have to see.
Mm-hmm.
This class coming up. I'm not exactly thrilled about it. Like I know we're talking fantasy prospects here. I don't really know if I want to take a shot on anyone personally. I think I'd rather pass the buck and see if I can pay for Uh-oh. Coach is about to go on an 85-minute Cam Ward rant. So if you are a Miami Hurricane fan,
I'm just gonna sit back and watch.
yeah, just get ready.
No, I'm just gonna leave it at the dude is good. I'm telling you, the dude is good.
There you go.
He is good. He is calm. He is cool. He can read the defense. He has an absolute rocket launcher attached to his shoulder. I'm telling you, the dude can play, and he's going to be a New York Giant. That's my prediction.
Tyler,
There
do you agree with that?
About the rookie quarterbacks in general.
Well, that and the whole Cam Ward, it's pretty hot and bothered over here.
Coach is the resident Cam Ward lover there. I mean, I do think he's probably the best quarterback in the class. I think Shadur is good, but I also think Shadur, I don't want to say pad stats, but he looks out for himself a lot. He
It's fair.
whenever he gets
Pad
in
stats.
trouble,
Say it. Pad stats.
yeah, when he gets in trouble and nobody's
Yeah.
open down the field, he doesn't throw it away. You know what I mean? Like, he's not getting the incompletions. He wants that completion percentage to be. He could finish the game 18 for 21 with 12 of those targets going to Travis Hunter, and he's happy. Like, he doesn't care. He'll take off and try to run for it even if he gets 2 yards. He's not going to just throw an incomplete pass for the heck of it.
But he's a good player though too. He's a good player.
He's a good player. Not I just like Cam Ward personally for his passing presence or whatever awareness over Shador there. I do think something too to add to the rookie quarterback conversation from earlier. Everybody wants to find their Patrick Mahomes. They've seen the success, like we said, on that first contract. If you can win in those early years, it sets you up huge. Like, it's a huge advantage. So everybody's trying to find that Patrick Mahomes that they like. It seems like Bo Nix may be the one for Sean Payton. It's always an archetype too. Look who he had before. He had Drew Brees. What was he? He was really accurate, kind of smaller at times, super athletic, but he could just get you. That just wasn't often. But the accuracy and just throwing the ball, that was what he thrived on. And look at what he's got now. He's got an accurate quarterback, and that's exactly what Sean Payton wants. So it's just, you got to find the right lane to be in.
Sure.
I personally, probably, like Matt said, I'm not really taking shots unless it's a Cam Ward that falls, maybe a Shador, depending on how far he falls in the rookie draft. But as far as like the top of the quarterback class, this year's probably not the year for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I am going to have to be a Cam Ward believer just because of the amount of texts that I get every single Saturday from Coach. I mean, it's like 50, I swear. So I've seen every Cam Ward play already.
I'll let you guys get on with answering some questions, but I don't know how you I'm all right. I have been trying to get myself more into college. This is the first year of me doing it. Hasn't been great, Bob. Not great, Bob. I love Texas. I've always loved Texas. My sister lived there for years, went to a couple of games, so I am hopelessly devoted to the University of Texas. But I don't know how you boys watch NFL and do that. There's a lot of respect there because that's a lot of ground to cover. So,
it is
a couple of dynasty guys I like. I'll raise my glass to you. I don't know how you do it. It's a lot.
It's a lot of work. I think mainly for me, I'd probably speak for Coach too. I'm not sure about Tyler, maybe, but for me, I fell in love with college football first. Like, I just vividly remember watching that when I was a kid. It's what I would prefer to watch, if I'm being honest. I think the passion is in that game. It's just different than the NFL. And I've been lucky to watch a lot of college games at different places all over the country, and it's just cool. I love to see the different environments with it, but I do love the thought of trying to build something and trying to find who's going to be the next player to break out at the next level. And so I think that's how it translates for me, because I want to see if I can predict who's going to be good and if they're going to, jump to the next step and continue to produce, because I love draft season, because it feels like when it's draft night and you're watching it and you're with your friends or with your family, and you're waiting for your team's pick, it feels like it's the chance for your team to completely change everything. You're going to rewrite the script, and this is the one. So I love that anticipation and that build almost as much as I love the football season itself.
Well, and for dynasty nerds like us, like I'll speak for me here. Like I'm really into the trying to find that third round guy or even the waiver wire guy at the end of the fantasy draft that's going to hit that no one else thought was going to hit. I was all over Puka. Yeah, I'll say it. Like I was the guy that thought Puka was going to be good. He hit. I felt like I was the man because I got that one right. You know. But at the same time, like I'm trying to find the next one. Like to me, that's intriguing. That's what's interesting to me. This year there were not very many, by the way.
There was
none,
one.
really.
There was one. Bucky Irving, folks. But Tyler, you want to add anything to that?
I think like you said, it's just the passion. You know, that fan base like that colleges build, especially like SEC and Big 10, Big 12, all those guys. Like that's a whole different ball game. You know, when you're watching those guys, like it's it's just yeah, coach, he sitting over there making that noise because I didn't mention the ACC and Miami. Yeah, I know. Well, listen, whenever we have more than two teams that are good every year, I'll throw them in the category.
Okay. Here we
But
go.
that being said,
Mm.
I mean, I like both. I do like the passion. I would also be remiss without saying, um, if you get any opportunity to watch Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt call a game, you just got to watch it. That is the most electrifying commentary you're going to hear in a football game. So find who they're commentating for the week. It could be somebody completely off the
It could
wall,
be
and it's
they
going to
could
be
they
great.
could be fucking Apex Auto School. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Go right ahead. I promise you it will be entertaining.
I just
So,
like the nicknames he pops off. It's just
oh
like
yeah.
whatever
Oh
he's
yeah.
gonna say, you just never know. You never know. So, I mean, the passion's crazy. I mean, if going to a game with 100,000 plus people is unbelievable. Like it's
I
crazy.
mean, again, I went to a Texas game and it was insane. The environment was unreal. Like anything, probably top 3 sporting events I've ever been to.
Yep.
Just
Yeah,
watching a
I mean,
random college game. That's it.
yeah, I was at the Bama OU game 2 weeks
shit.
ago or last week when
Oh,
OU beat
nice.
When the 500 team dog walked them, yeah.
I knew I shouldn't have said that. He is very frustrated because Bama got ranked higher than Miami in the college playoff poll, but that's neither here nor there.
Not really. Not really. If you blow a 21-0 lead to Syracuse, then fine.
This
The Syracuse is better than Oklahoma.
is
Yeah,
fun
I
for
said
me.
it.
I selfishly got to come in here, ask my own questions. I got to rattle all the cages. This has been fun for me. I've had a good time.
Hey, this is what we love to do. So please,
Yeah.
anytime you want, you're more than welcome to join. But let's hit these last few questions here. We can kind of wrap up with some more conversation if we want. Albert says hello. Hello, Albert. Thank you for being here. We appreciate everyone who's tuned in so far. Our next question from John says, hello, guys. How do you get over the frustration of making a bad trade? I traded Bucky for Rashad White in a larger deal literally the day before Bucky broke out. I'll start from my experience. My first ever dynasty trade was a loss. I traded T. Higgins to coach for Terry McLaurin. And, obviously Terry's blown up now, so it's not necessarily as big of a deal. And I've traded Terry since then. But, it can be difficult, but you have to stay fluid. For me, that's the thing is like I'm constantly looking for how can I accrue value. And if that's moving someone else or knowing when to sell, knowing when to buy, I'm constantly evaluating my rosters. Like I don't care if it's the best player on my team or the worst player on my team. Everyone is available. And if someone's willing to overpay, I'll do it.
Yeah,
Coach, what about you?
I don't think it sounds crazy, but like who cares? Like in this world, you're going to take some chances. You're going to lose some. You're going to win some. Like that's just how it goes. If you get all wrapped up in that, then you're going to be miserable. So you might as well just sit back and try to make the next trade. Now, you can always flip that guy. You can always flip Rachaad White now for a second or third probably and still get that for him and in the dynasty world and see what you can do there. I mean, there's always we talked about this before. Like when I make a trade, in the back of my head, when I do the deal, I think, well, if this doesn't work out, how can I get out from under it next? It's like I traded for James Conner, and I actually had already told Matt when I did it at the beginning of the year, like if this doesn't work out or my team isn't doing well, then I'm gonna flip James Conner later for a second in Dynasty World, and we'll make it work. So, I mean, I always think about what can I do if this kind of falls apart on me.
Yeah, Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing to keep in mind too is in this certain situation, Bucky versus Rachaad White, yeah, it looks bad, but you got to keep in mind too that luck plays a huge factor into this. Like, yes, you have to evaluate prospects and make the trades. You're the one pressing the button, absolutely. But there are definitely trades that we would consider bad trades that end up working out in the long run. There are trades that get vetoed because they're like, that doesn't make any sense. Like if you included a trade with Cedric Tillman from earlier in the year for any relevant wide receiver, you would be like, what is this person doing? And then whenever they traded, you know, they traded everybody, and then Deshaun Watson got hurt, or Voldemort, if you don't want to say his name, that's fine.
Hmm.
Um, and then James came on the scene. Cedric Tillman looked like the next thing. So I think
different
that's one
play.
thing to keep in mind. Yeah, one thing to keep in mind too. Situations change. It's somewhat of luck. You can make this deal or a different deal. Like let's say you went out and James Conner. You went and traded for James Conner, and guess what? We already said he has a history of missing games. What if this was a year that he missed half the season instead of where he's at now? It looks a little worse, but that's all luck. That's all that is. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind too is situation kind of changes. You know, if something were to happen in this case, like let's say, you know, hopefully not, because it might break Matt's heart and he may never watch
I'm about to
football
take my
ever again.
headphones out.
Let's say something happens that Bucky missed a week or two. Rachaad White's value goes up. You know what I mean? Like it's not it's a fluid thing. Like Matt said, you got to stay fluid even if, you're not getting what you want out of the guy. Don't be afraid to make a deal and say, "Look, I made a bad trade. I'm going to get out of it while I can and just go from there." So I think just like Matt said, stay fluid, but all situations change too.
Yeah, I know Hauff's never lost a trade, especially if he's traded with Pete. Pete's definitely been the
Oh.
loser on that, so it's
I
going to be
have-
tough for him to weigh in here. But go ahead, Hoff.
I have definitely lost trades before, and I just simply think that it's like anything. Not to be like it's all about life, but it's like you're not going to win every trade, and you're going to make a trade, and you're going to say this is going to be great, and you're going to be right. You're going to make a trade, you're going to be fucking wrong. So to me, it's a way of evaluating each and every trade, not making it so that you can't make another trade. Like, don't scare yourself away from making another trade, but be mindful of what's happened in the past. Kind of incorporate that as much as you can into another situation. It's definitely one of those whole life things. Like, you can't be like, I can't get over the frustration of making a bad trade. Well, then guess what? Fantasy sports, probably like a lot of other things, is probably not for you. It's just you live and you learn.
Yeah, you're going to be wrong.
We have all made dog shit trades. We have all made trades. We could all probably go around the room and be like, I should not have fucking done that, but I did it. I traded in not even a dynasty league, in a keeper league. I traded a first round pick to get Javid Best, and Javid Best that game against my 49ers got a concussion, and he was done for the rest of his NFL career, pretty much. So it's like you live and you learn. It happens, adapt or die. That's really what it is. That's how you get over that frustration,
Yeah, you never give up.
That's
And I mean,
That's it.
he even adds the rest of the deal with CD and Pacheco for Puka and Pollard. So, I mean,
Did you
like I
guys
said,
like the Javid Best name drop? Did you guys like that?
it was unexpected.
What year was that?
Fuck, I don't remember the year, but I remember the game was in Detroit. The game was in Detroit, and Javid Best was either catching the ball towards the sideline or he was getting tackled towards the sideline, and his head hit the ground, and I was like, that happened. That just happened.
2009.
Was it? Okay, yeah. I've been playing for a bit.
Wait, no. 11. You guys' first one in
11.
2009.
Yeah, he had a couple.
Yep.
Man.
He
Well, there we
was
go.
good, but when he got concussed, Wow.
I mean,
Yep.
Coach can remember drafting Johnny Unitas, so it's been a heck of a time for him.
Jeez, you are older than me. All right, that's okay. Never mind.
It's
I
mainly
coached these-
whatever.
I coached these- I coached these fools in middle school. That's a true
Sure
story.
Well, hopefully you made them run laps. If not, make them run laps after this.
I did.
You have
I
no idea. I can tell one of the best stories most I've ever run in my entire life was because of that man right there. But let's hit our last ones here. Enough about me puking. We buy homes near you. This is non-PPR start 3. Monty, Brees Hall, Pollard, Garindo, and Jacoby Myers. That's tough. I'm gonna let you start us off, Tyler. Who do you like in this situation? What 3 are you picking?
I think it depends on maybe Brees's injury availability. For me, if Brees is out or even just questionable going into the game, I would do Monty, Pollard, and Jacoby. If Brees is cleared and ready to go, I would start Monty, Hall, and Jacoby as well.
Coach, what about you?
Well, I'm saying like if Hall's playing, I'm gonna play him too. Monty Hall and maybe Garindo here. Monty Hall and maybe Garindo. I like Jacoby. I do. I guess it's going to depend on the makeup of your team here. You're going to play all these running backs. Yeah, I'll just go Monty Hall, Garindo.
Hauff?
I would go Monty Hall, and I would actually go Pollard in this particular matchup this week.
Yeah, me
going
too.
up against the Jaguars.
Yeah, I want to exploit that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
me being an
I
honor
think-
guy, whatever. The Bears are pretty decent against running backs this year. The Jaguars, not so much. I mean, what Jaguars, if I'm looking at this here, where are the Jaguars here?
I believe they're
It's not
second
good.
against running backs.
Yeah. And
Second worst.
10 games in which they've allowed 20 points or more to the running back position. So, yeah, I think I'd lean that way.
Yeah, he also adds, guys, with a DST question. I won't lie, I have not had the opportunity to watch Pete's video yet. But if you got a DST
son
question,
of a bitch.
I know I'm gonna watch it tonight and
That's
go make
the
my
rule.
pick
You
off
have
the
to
waiver.
watch the video for you live stream.
I know you're not wrong. I didn't get to. I was stuck in some work stuff all day. It was
I'm gonna
not
text
fun.
Pete
But
right now.
I think you should. And I'm gonna tell him. Pete, this is my
I'm not gonna
apology to
fucking
you.
text him.
I'm very sorry. I will watch your video tonight. I'll watch it twice. How about that? That's my punishment. But any DST here you like, Hauff?
What was that? Bucks, Titans, Bills, Chargers, Seahawks, Bears. Jeez, do you have enough teams? I
Yeah,
I don't do I don't do the Bears here. The Niners are pretty much left for dead, but I also think that they're going to fight their way through the rest of the season until they're mathematically out of it. So I wouldn't go Bears here. Let me see this.
I mean, the Titans have the Jags, so you're looking at Mac Jones with Trevor Lawrence going to
Yeah,
IR. So that's
Titans are
enticing.
probably a good spot. The Bills are going up against. Let me see this. Bills are going up against the Rams. And what else we got here?
We've got the Chargers with the
Seahawks.
Chiefs.
Yeah. I think I'd go Titans. I mean, Yeah, I think I go Titans. No Trevor Lawrence. Not like Trevor Lawrence has been the greatest thing ever this year, but yeah, I would think I'd go there.
Any difference from you, Coach and Tyler?
Nah, same Titans. I mean, Mac Jones will throw him the football a couple times.
I'm actually gonna pivot a little bit. I think I would probably go with the Bucks against the Raiders. I mean, yeah, you can target
Good
Mac
call.
Jones, obviously. If this was any other week, I would be taking the Chargers. But since they're playing the Chiefs, I'm not gonna deal with that. So I do know for a fact, may not be in this week's video. It should be because I didn't get to watch it either. So sorry, Pete. But I have seen the Bucks love has been prevalent on Pete's page. He said to pick them up for their playoff run, so I know he likes the Bucks for sure this week.
You guys are all kissing the fucking ring of Pete. Did anybody watch my kicker videos?
I was just about to give you the plug on the kicker video. I was
They
just
are
about to do it.
dynamite.
Where on my
They are
life?
good.
They are. They
They
are.
are good.
I've used it the last 3 weeks.
Coach doesn't give a shit right now, but they're good.
I'm sure they're good. I honestly do not have. I do not.
I'm teasing.
I do not have a. I am not in a single league that has a kicker currently. I'm not.
A lot of people
I-
want. I do that honestly. A lot of people say that to me. They're like, "Dude, like, why do you do that?" But because a lot of people that aren't like invested like we are, they're just naturally in a league that has a kicker, and they have to worry about it. So that's why I do it.
or you're showing your age, and these same dudes are still in the Yahoo League from 2000.
I am getting old. It's getting bad. It's not good. I feel like shit right now. I don't know why I'm still awake, but yeah.
Yeah. We're almost done. Our last couple here. We've got thoughts on Will Levis this week. I mean, taking on the Jags like we just talked about. Another guy who's benefited from that wait and sit approach. Hauff, I'll start with you since we're approaching your bedtime. Is Will Levis someone you're willing to play?
I did the I appreciate the joke. I do enjoy that. I did a start sit for quarterbacks, and Will Levis is a start for me, and I have it here. The Jaguars have allowed a league high 8 games with 20 points or more to the quarterback position. Jaguars are also one of 2 teams to allow 2 touchdown passes on a per game basis. So, I mean, and Levis, by the way, since he came back from injury, 3 of the 4 games since he came back, he's had 2 touchdown passes. So, or at least 2 touchdown passes. So, I do like this matchup actually for Levis. I do. So,
yeah. Tyler, what about you?
Levis really grows to me unless he's playing the Jags. And guess what? He's playing the Jags.
Bingo.
Yep.
I agree.
I think his odds of having success this week are probably about as good as his opportunities for memes on the internet. It seems like every game he has one. I think this past week it was him running with his head straight down at the ground like he was an Olympic sprinter. So I do think it's a pretty decent play this week. I think it depends on who your quarterbacks are. Obviously, you're not playing him over the top guys, But like, say for instance, you had Lamar, and you're in a 1 quarterback league, and the waivers are bare, or you don't have another starter. Like, you could play him. Oh, you may play him over Jameis because Jameis plays the Steelers. Stuff like that. I mean, it's all about who you have and who's available on your waivers. But I do think this would be a week where you could start him if need be.
Yeah, I mean, he's been serviceable the last 4 weeks, scoring more than 15 points every single week. So I'm more than comfortable starting him if I have to in a certain situation. We've got several big name quarterbacks to buy.
I mean, we got what? We got 6 teams on bye this week. I mean, you're kind of living in that world where you got to make a tough call.
Yeah.
So
I think that's what you do. Last one to add here, guys. Levis or Kirk this week?
Levis.
Yep.
Levis. Yeah, Kirk's in Minnesota.
Yeah, man, that's so
That's
tough.
gross.
What kind of world we living in? But yep, Levis.
Yeah, I think I'm saying Levis too. I mean, just the matchup. I mean, the Jags are bad against everything. It doesn't matter the position they're bad against it. So
They
I mean,
really
they
are,
just
though.
are.
That's funny, but yeah, they are.
First in points given up to quarterbacks, second to running backs, third to wide receivers, sixth to tight ends. Like they just gift fantasy points. So
Trent
just
Baalke at his best. I can
doing what he
can
does.
I fuck Trent Baalke is the worst general manager ever. I'm on a podcast. I can say it. I can't stand Trent Baalke. I would rather have my mother, not even. I'd rather have Helen Keller be the GM of my team over Trent Baalke. There, I said it. I made that stance. I can't stand Trent Baalke. He's the absolute worst. He drives every franchise into the ground. He did it with the Niners. Now he's doing it with the Jaguars. Here we are. No PTSD. I'm fine. We're okay. I'm fine. I'm going to just
And
bring this over here. We're fine.
and that is a strong stance that I think we can all agree to end on. You know, who's going to be the future GM of the Jaguars? I don't know. Maybe one of us should be, because it can't be worse, right? They're giving up everything. But we want to appreciate
I'm
everyone.
going to vote for Tyler. Put Tyler in there.
There we go. Tyler, you got the job. No
My
pressure,
pick.
buddy.
Let's go.
So, but we appreciate everyone who's tuned in. Hauff, thanks for joining us, my friend. It was awesome to have you on here. You are more than welcome any single time that we are all together.
Cheers. Hopefully I didn't cloud it getting my own selfish questions answered about Dynasty. But yeah, had a great time with you guys.
Yeah, I think it was perfect. So be sure to give us a follow over on X at the FF Mediators. If you're not subscribed already to the Face Off Sports Network, you need to go ahead and do that. There's lots of videos out there, including 2 great videos on kickers and some defenses from Hauff and Pete.
It's
So be
fucking
sure to go check
incredible.
that out.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. There you go. So we appreciate everyone who's tuned in. Be sure to like that video. Comment below if you have any questions. We'll come back and answer those. But until next time, we will catch you next Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern.